All right, guys, it's been a minute since I've done a video for you. And as always, I like to educate you guys on the ins and outs of sports betting, not just giving you picks. That's the easy thing to do. I could just spit out picks all day long. And of course, we've got a ton of picks inside of the app for you for both free and pro members. The pro members, of course, are getting a few more picks, but Jacelyn and myself are giving out free bets on a daily basis. Plus, we've got vows, parlays inside the app. And if you guys haven't checked out the app recently, or you checked it out maybe early on and you haven't gone back to it, there's so many more things inside the app now. You've got handles where you can check out where the percentage of tickets are being bet and then the percentage of money being bet. I'll do a whole video on that, but oftentimes you can look for some sharp money when the ticket percentage and the money percentage, there's a disparity in the two. So take a look out for that. We've got models coming into the app shortly. Now, we're talking player props today, and inside the app, what I love is probably one of my favorite features is you can look at a specific game, go to the Super Bowl inside the app, open it up, click player props. You'll have every sports book in your state and all the props that they're offering, and you'll be able to compare them really quickly. What you're going to notice is there's going to be some differentiation between multiple sports books. You're going to want to have access to as many sports books as possible so that you can get the best line. And if you look down below on YouTube here, or if you're watching this inside the app, there's going to be links to all of those sports books so that you can sign up, get yourself an account. They've got unbelievable promo codes. It's really like giving away free money on a lot of these sites. So even if you're not going to bet all that much, I suggest opening up an account and taking advantage of the free money promos and bonuses that they're offering at each and every one of these sports books. All right, one last thing until we jump into what we're here to talk about today. Do me a favor and give us a like and subscribe. It definitely helps us in the algorithm, and it gives us an idea as to the type of content you guys want so we can keep giving it to you. All right, prop betting. It is something that has been involved with the Super Bowl for a very long time. Now we could get prop betting going on just about every single NFL game, a lot of the major college games, NBA on a nightly basis. Back in the day, that was not the case, all right? So your local sports bookie or in Las Vegas, they were just basically taking action on the game, whether it's the side of the game or the total. Maybe on a Monday night, you'd have a couple of props start creeping in, but really not until the advent of these online apps did we start seeing the push towards prop betting. And a lot of you guys are coming from a fantasy background, and props just really fit in nicely because you're already used to projections and looking at more of a statistical analysis to a game as opposed to who's going to win the game and who's going to lose the game. But when you're looking at multiple sports books, and as I just stated earlier, you really should be, you're going to notice that on a lot of these props, they're offering a different number on the prop, but there's also juice involved. Let me explain the juice first. And you guys really should go through the Sharp Academy over on the app. If you are unfamiliar with any of these terms, a lot of them are going to be covered in the Sharp Academy. But the juice is what is being charged to you as the bettor, right? So it's really like a money line. It's going to work the same as a money line. Watch the money line video that I have in the Sharp Academy to understand how to calculate money lines. But if we see, for example, the example that I'm going to be showing is a Joe Burrow under prop, under passing yardage prop. And in that example, we've got 280.5 from Pointsbet at -125. That -125 is what we call the juice. So you're paying $125 to try and win $100 when it's a minus line. If it's a plus line, that's how much a $100 bet will return. So if that was plus 125, a $100 bet would return $225, your $100 back, plus you would win $125, okay? But in this instance, we're going to take a look at Burrow, his under passing, total passing yardage for the Super Bowl. And I'm going to bring it up on the screen here. You can see that we've got multiple sports books inside the app. This is a screenshot from the app, and Burrow under 280.5 over at Pointsbet, you are laying -125. Now, typically, if we're looking to bet an under on whatever it may be, we're looking for the highest possible amount because, of course, that gives us the most opportunity to go under. But when you factor in juice, that may not always be the best strategy, because we've now got to calculate the juice involved, right? I wouldn't pay, without even doing the math, I wouldn't pay minus 500 on this bet, right? I wouldn't pay minus 400. But when we get to numbers like minus 125, is that worthwhile on a bet? Now, I'm going to compare that to the Fanduel 276.5 minus 110. Why? Because that is the best line here. We don't want to go down to 273 minus 110, 273.5 minus 110. We know 276 minus 110 is the same because we're comparing now apples to apples, the minus 110 juice. What gets confusing is we've got to compare apples maybe to oranges is when we've got different juice and different passing yardage. So let's take a look at how exactly we are going to figure this out on this one. So I'm going to compare the two. I'm going to compare the 280.5 minus 125 to 276.5 minus 110. And I'm going to show you just how to do that. And also, this is going to be how you're going to calculate whether or not there is value on any of these props. So it's a simple normal distribution. And when I say any of these props, it's not necessarily any of these props. It's props. You're going to use normal distribution on props, particularly on yardage props. We're going to use Poisson for the props where the statistic increases one at a time, right? So yardage is going to increase in multiples at a time. And it's also going to be a much larger number. So we're looking for smaller total numbers. Things that Poisson works well with would be total touchdowns, receptions, things like that, where it's a small total, it's going in increments of one. Yardage, we're going to look for a normal distribution. So I'll do this with Poisson again for you guys to show you how it works with Poisson. But I've got a video on props and normal distribution inside the Sharp Academy, so check that out. I've also got one for Poisson. Check that one out as well. So let's take a look here at the real simple spreadsheet that I put together, and I'm going to go over exactly what we're looking at here, right? So the prop, as we talked about, is Burrow's passing yardage, and we're looking for the under. Now, there's two different bets here. There's prop 280.5. That's that Pointsbet prop. The juice is minus 125. Then we've got the 276.5 with the minus 110 juiced line. Now, the implied probability on these is, again, a video that I have on implied probability, but all we're doing here is taking the juice and figuring out what the probability is based on that juice. Now, for a negative number, that means it's a favorite to happen. You should be getting some number over 50% because there's greater than 50% chance, according to that juice, that this happens. So your implied probability on a negative number is going to be the absolute value of that number divided by 100 plus the absolute value of that number. So essentially you're going to get you're going to get 125 divided by 100 plus 125. So 125 divided by 225, you get 55.56% implied probability. All right. The average, I took the average of Burrow's passing yards this year. He averages 287 per game. Now, this is just a projection. I didn't put a whole lot of thought into the projection, but I just want to show you that if I was an under better, perhaps 270 is where I'm projecting Joe Burrow passing yardage. Now, standard deviations, this is calculated based on the statistics for Burrow this season. Now, you could go into, I'm not going to show you how to do standard deviations. You can ask down in the comments. I'll be happy to help you, of course, in Discord, and I'll help you out if you're unfamiliar with it. But Burrow's passing yardage has 100 standard deviations this year, 100 yards in standard deviation. So that means he's somewhere almost always between that one standard deviation. So that would be 170 yards and 370 yards. That's a pretty wide range, right? But that's the standard deviation for Burrow. I'm sorry, it would be 387 and 187 with his average being 287. Now, this average doesn't factor into my calculation. It's just something that I put in here because I want to see what his average is. And then I'm going to, if I was an under better, perhaps, I was going to shade this down because now his average is 287. I feel like the Rams defense is stronger than the average defense, and I want to project him at 270. Of course, we could be getting these projections from anywhere. You don't have to do your own projections. You can go to DFS Army. Great projections there. There's a multitude of places online where you're going to get projections. I would actually suggest getting quite a few projections and averaging them out. That's going to be a more accurate number than probably any projection you're going to be able to do on your own. So again, that's how we're getting to 270, which again, I just kind of put in there. I didn't put a whole lot of effort into my 270. I just want to show you how we go about doing this. Now, the probability of this prop hitting based on my projection. This is where the secret sauce comes in. This is normal distribution. So you're going to have to write this formula. Again, if you need help with the formula, comments down below, Discord, I can send you guys a copy of this example spreadsheet, and you guys could do this for yourself. Just hit me up in the Discord over for the Sportsbet, well, not Sportsbet Army, over for Sharp Bets Discord, and I'll help you guys out with the formulas. So we're going to do normal distribution, and all that is, right? Now, this is based on whether or not it's over or under. I'm doing a simple if statement, but don't get yourself too worked up or confused over that. We're going to use the second one because this is an under bet. So we're using the second half of this if. So it's a normal distribution of C2, right? So C2 is the X value. Now your X value in this, again, refer back to normal distribution. I get into this in much more detail in that video, but the X value is going to be the value that we're looking for. So we're looking to see what's the probability we go over or under 280.5. That's going to be translated into what the number, the sports book that you're looking at is giving you. All right, G2 is the standard deviation. We already, G2 is the mean, and the mean is not going to be the average, but the mean is going to be your projection, right? So your projection is going to be the mean because on average, that's what you think this particular game Joe Burrow throws for on average. So that's your mean. And then you've got your standard deviation H2, right? Right here, we know that's 100 yards is the standard deviation for a Burrow game. And then true is just how this is going to calculate. You want to put true in here so that we can do a cumulative of all the, what it's going to do is do a cum of everything under 270 yards and add all the probabilities of those up, because that's really the number that we're looking for. And then we get 54.18% chance, which you can see is under the implied probability of 55.56%. So the sportsbook is actually pricing this at a higher probability than we are. Now we can convert this probability to see that a little clearer into true odds. The true odds are going to be minus 118.25 if our projection is accurate. That's what we should be paying. We should be paying minus 118, minus 119, something like that to get under 280.5. Now, this is an EV based on betting $100. Now, the simple EV calculation, again, I'm not going to go over EV in detail. I've got videos on how to calculate EV, but you're going to see this is a negative EV proposition. Now, when we get down to the Fanduel version of this, same formula, but now we've got less yardage. So now we're trying to get under 276.5 for less yards. And really the problem is 15 cents, which is the differential here, worth 4 yards, right? So would I be willing to pay 15 cents to get 4 more yards on this prop? Or would I rather just pay less and get 4 less yards? All right, hopefully that makes sense here. Your implied probability on a minus 110 bet is 52.38 or 52.4%. That's also your break even on your average minus 110 bet. You've got to pick better than 52.4%, usually on spread bets in the NFL and college basketball, football, NBA. Again, the average, these numbers aren't going to change. My projection was 270, standard deviation of 100. But now the probability that we get underneath this prop, of course, is going to be lower. Why? Because I've got 4 less yards to play with here. My probability is 52.59%, which is slightly more than the 52.38% implied probability this minus 110 is suggesting. So the true odds here should actually be around minus 111, which means we're getting a slightly better price, minus 111. It should be. We're getting minus 110. So we're actually getting a slight positive EV if 270 is our projection. But the most important thing that I want you guys to see is when we compare the two, it's not close, right? So we're getting over $3.50 more value by playing 276.5. And that's what I want to convey to you guys. So hopefully you understand that concept, and go over this with you guys on maybe some touchdown or reception type props, rushing attempt props, and we'll do that with Poisson. But you could do this with all sorts of the rushing yardage, receiving yardage, passing yardage type of props. Use normal distribution. I'm going to link down below to the videos that pertain to what I talked about here today. We've got EV, you've got normal distribution props, you've got the Poisson props, which I'll link to, but we'll get into that in another video. A whole bunch of stuff that we went over here quickly, but this is why I want you guys to use the Sharp Academy and get down all of the things we talk about in the Sharp Academy, because then when you watch these videos, you're going to have that good base, a good foundation. You're going to understand exactly what I'm talking about. Those of you who have not gone through the Sharp Academy and are not familiar with normal distribution or Poisson or EV, how to calculate implied probabilities, you may be a little bit lost here. So go to those videos first, try to catch up, learn a little bit, and then come back to this video. As always, guys, I really appreciate you sticking in there, hanging with me. Again, give us a subscribe here in YouTube and a like. It definitely helps us out. I'll be back with some more videos this week as we lead up to the Super Bowl, helping you guys not just pick some winners, but become a lot sharper.